Hello everyone, welcome to Dikshant classes. Good morning everybody. Today I am going to discuss about the Consumer Protection Act 2019. Firstly, the Consumer Protection Act comes in the year 1986. It involves rights of consumers, how the consumer will protected, and where to report if anything goes wrong. And in the year 2019 it new act will comes in force, and it replaced the Consumer Protection Act in 1986. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 was enacted by the Indian legislature to deal with the matter related to the violation of consumer rights, unfair trade practices, misleading advertisements, and all those circumstances which are prejudicial to the consumer rights. It means that the Consumer Protection Act 2019 is enacted by the Indian Legislature Parliament to deal with the matters related to the violation of consumer rights, unfair trade practices, misleading advertisement, and all those circumstances which are prejudicial to consumer rights. Consumer protection is a practice of safeguard buyers of goods and services against unfair trade practices in the market. It refers to the steps adopted for the protection of consumer from corrupt and unscrupulous small practices by the seller, manufacturer, service provider, and etc. And to provide remedies in case the rights as the consumer has been violated. For here the example of consumer rights violations. Why Brazil court has fined Apple? A Brazilian court has fined Apple $19 million for selling iPhone without a charger. The court ruled that battery charger must come with the new iPhones and sold in the country. Apple said that it will appeal the decision. The South Pole State Court ruled against the Apple in a lawsuit that was filed by the Association of Borrowers, Consumers and Taxpayers. The lawsuit claims that the company follow abusive practices by selling its flagship product without the charger. So it is necessary to sold a product with their charger. Otherwise, it is not good for the Apple-like company. Apple has a very goodwill brand and its reputation in the market. So court has ordered to pay 100 crore fine. Consumer Protection Act 2019. In India, the protection of the rights of the consumers is administered by the Consumer Protection Act 2019. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 was introduced to replace the Consumer Protection Act 1986. The new act contains various provisions which incorporate the challenges faced by the modern and technology-dependent consumers. The act also contains various provisions for the protections and promoting the rights of the consumer. Meaning of the word consumers. A consumer is an individual or group of individuals who purchase goods and services for their own personal use and not for the purpose of manufacturing or resale. According to Section 2, Subsection 7 of the Consumer Protection Act 2019, define a consumer as any person who buy goods and services in exchange of the for considerations and utilizes such goods and services for personal use and for the purpose of resale or commercial use. In the explanation of the definition of consumer, it has been distinctly stated that the term buy and any goods and hire any or avail any services also include all online transactions conducted through electronic means or direct selling or tele-shopping or multi-level marketing. Next is objectives of the Consumer Protection Act 2019. The main objective of the Act is to protect the interest of the consumer and to establish the stable and strong mechanism for the settlement of consumer dispute. The Act aims to protect against the marketing of product that are hazardous to the life and property, inform about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, then standards and price of goods to be safeguard the consumers against the unfair trade practices. Establish consumer protection councils for protecting the rights and interests of the consumers. Assure wherever possible access to an authority of goods at competitive prices. Seek redressals against unfair trade practices or unscrupulous exploitation of consumer. Protect the consumers by appointing authorities for timely and sufficient administration and settlement of consumer disputes. Lay down the penalty for offences committed under the Act. Hear and ensure the consumers' welfare will receive due consideration at appropriate forum in case any problem or dispute arises. Provide consumer education so that consumer will be aware of the rights, in which condition they raise a question, they will raise a voices, whether the product is hazardous, scrupulous, unfair trade practices, price will charge high, bill will not pay, then the product will be not replaced if there is not according to the satisfaction level or there is any defects. Provide speedy and effective disposals of consumer complaint through an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Next is the Consumer Rights under Consumer Protection Act 2019. The rights of the consumer to be protected from the marketing of goods and services that are hazardous and determinant to the life and property. The rights of consumer to be protected against unfair trade practices by being aware of quality, quantity, purity, potency, standards and price of goods, product or services. The rights of consumers to be have access to the variety of goods, services and products at competitive price. The right to seek redressal at respective forums against unfair restrictive trade practices. The right to receive adequate compensations consideration from respective consumer for in case they have wronged by the sellers. The right to receive consumer education. Next is unfair trade practices under Consumer Protection Act 2019. According to Section 2, Subsection 47 of the Consumer Protection Act 2019 defined the term unfair trade practices, which includes manufacturing of spurious goods and providing defective service, which are not real goods, they are fake goods, or providing defective services. Not issuing a cash memo or bill for the purchase of goods or services rendered. Refusing to take back or withdraw the goods or services and by the seller, and not refunding the considerations and taken for the purchase of goods or services. Disclosing the personal information of the consumer without any taking consideration. Why the information will be disclosed without informing consumer? If they inform the consumer, why actually they need to disclose the personal information of the consumer? Next is the changes incorporated in Consumer Protection Act 2019. The district commissions will have jurisdiction to enter complaints where the value of goods or services or product paid as a consideration to the seller does not exceed 50 lakh rupees. State commission will have the jurisdiction to enter complaints entertain complaints where the value of goods, services or products paid as consideration to the seller exceed 50 lakh rupees but does not exceed 2 crore rupees. The National Commission will have the jurisdictions to entertain the complaints where the value of goods, service or product paid consideration to seller exceeding 2 crore rupees. The Act further states that every complaint concerning consumer disputes shall be disclosed as expediently possible. A complaint filed under this Act shall be decided within the period of 3 months from the date of the receipt of notice by the opposite parties. In the cases complaint does not require analysis or testing of goods and services within a period of 5 months. If require or analysis or testing of the goods and services. The Act laid down the scope for e-commerce and direct selling. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 also facilitates the consumer to file complaint online. In this regard, the central government has to set up the e-Dakhil portal, which provide a convenient, speedy and inexpensive facility to the consumer all over India, so that they are able to approach to the relevant consumer forum in case of any disputes. The government has provided the facility to file the complaint online on the e-Dakhil portal, which is launched by the government, and it is convenient, speedy and expensive facility to consumer all over India. They are able to approach the relevant consumer forum in case of any disputes arises. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 lays down provision for mediation and alternative dispute resolution, so that parties are able to dispose the case conveniently without going through the trouble of litigation. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 contained provision for product liability, unfair contracts, and it also included 3 new unfair trade practices. In contrast, the old Act stated 6 types of unfair trade practices. The Act of 2019 acts as an advisory body for the promotion and protection of consumer rights. Under the Consumer Protection Act 2019, there is no scope for selection committees. The Act authorizes the central government to appoint the members. That's all today's class. If you have any doubt or any query, you can post in the comment section. I will surely make videos, and thank you so much for listening carefully.